Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our latest Meet the Management podcast. My name is Marc Ashton, and today I'm joined on the line by Warren and Tatum Wheatley from Altvest. For those of you who are familiar with the company, they transferred from the Cape Town Stock Exchange to the JSE last year. One of the most talked about investment companies and financial services companies, or disruptors, if you'd like, in the sector at the moment. Warren and Tatum, thank you very much for your time and joining us today. Warren, maybe just
Thanks, Mark.
starting with you and maybe getting a sense about this, but I mean, you transitioned from the Cape Town Stock Exchange to the JSE. Any interesting learnings or anything that we could maybe share with the listeners in terms of the change in direction or rigor in terms of being a JSE listed business?
So the idea about the listing was the quite obvious one, was the increased spotlight. The JSE just enjoys a bigger share of the investor spotlight. And with that would come additional liquidity for our shareholders. What I can share is that the initial IPO was widely accepted by the market. We went from 350 disparate shareholders to well over 2,500 separate shareholders, which was incredible for us. I think from a spreading perspective, and spreading as a concept of how many different shareholders are holding the company's stock, we well exceeded our own expectations as well as the JSE's. Unfortunately, after that, liquidity dried up. The guys who subscribed naturally are not sellers. And outside of that initial interest, no one else seems to be interested. And so increasing that liquidity is an ongoing struggle. It wasn't automatic. I think naively, I thought it would be, but it turned out not so. But Altvest, we took the knock on the chin. We stay relevant. We stay in the media. We stay in the spotlight. And it's something I think we've got to earn. And so we're happy to try and do that. We need to earn, and what I mean by that is we need to earn the confidence of not only the retail investor market, but the broader investment market in the country. And we're quite willing to pay our dues to earn that respect. The simple hop over achieved enormous things for us in terms of we got the capital we needed and wanted. But the daily trading is still not there, and that's something we're still working on.
I mean, I think it's one of the challenges. It's not unique to yourself as a small or mid cap business being listed on the bourse. I mean, I think it's been one of the ongoing challenges that how do you get the ecosystem engaged? I think the guys from Easy Equities have done well to try and drive a bit of retail investor participation. But I mean, is there more that the ecosystem could be doing, whether it's the broker network, whether it's the JSE, to be able to stimulate interest in small and mid caps?
Look, I don't think there's any deliberate things in place that is stopping liquidity, right? But it is a structural issue. The biggest capital participants in the JSE are asset managers who are servicing the pension fund market, and their trade supports the top 40, right? And they can only with confidence invest in the top 40 because they're guaranteed exit or entry at will. Now, until the market shifts so that we can potentially do that for them as well, it's quite rational that they wouldn't support us at this point in time. Things that can happen and that we're working on, we don't sit back and wait for things to change. We try and change them. As what might support us, and what one of the things that is missing is analyst coverage. So if we could get buy side and sell side analyst coverage on stocks as ourselves, and others within the sector, that may well increase investor confidence. We think as well that the JSE, and I read your article, which was wonderful to read about what's happening in the JSE and how well the current team are doing. What I can also add to that, and I wish I was a contributor to that, is that the current executive team is doing all they can to ensure that we meet the brokers, we meet the analysts, and so the JSE executive team is setting up meetings for us to go and see F&B Wealth and Standard Bank and Rand Swiss. And they've set up a string of meetings, and it's now up to myself and Tatum and the rest of our team to keep that relationship going, keep the interest going. And outside of that, the other thing is up to me is to make Altvest a compelling investment proposition. I can't expect interest or appetite until I make sure that we convince the market that we are a safe custodian of capital. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with me and my team. So I've got to make ourselves a compelling investment proposition. I can't use excuses that we on the Altex or anything like that. I've got to fix it. I've got to make sure people see value in what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it blew my mind. I was chatting to one of the asset managers the other day, and I mean, I believe there's only actual analyst coverage for 23 out of the 280 listed stocks on the JSE. I mean, the analyst coverage pool is minuscule. And I mean, most of those have market caps in excess of 5 billion, and anything under that, they simply just do not have the coverage or the local market interest to be able to dedicate a resource to it. So it's a fascinating challenge in terms of being a small business to be able to attract that capital, track the coverage, and build up a story that people can grow with and understand as time goes by. I mean, Tatum, anything you want to add from your perspective? I mean, looking at this as a marketing investment or marketing tool is very different. Marketing a listed business versus a consumer product. I mean, any thoughts from a marketing perspective there?
I mean, from a marketing perspective, last year was a huge year for us. I think that the marketing campaign that we launched in correlation with our IPO launch just before we launched onto the JSE was huge for us. And it has in some ways made us a household brand, which is exactly what we want to be. It's got a lot of talkability. The brand has a lot of talkability around it. But more than that, we now need to kind of prove our mettle and show that we are a serious company that is bringing amazing offerings to the fore. And I think that is what 2025 will be for us. We have amazing things planned. As I said, we traveled to China. We were able to secure some very interesting offerings that we're going to be bringing to the market and others. So in all of the offerings and products that we'll be bringing to the market this year, we are staying relevant. We're doing things that people will love. It ticks the boxes. It runs the gambit of what everybody's interest would be from an investment point of view. Saru, SA Rugby, China, and other. We have some other interesting ones that Warren might tease you with as well in this interview. So we really are trying to kind of show everybody that we've covered everything, and we can be all things to all people.
Awesome. Maybe it's a good segue into kind of the meat of what we want to chat about today. I mean, Warren, the opportunity to bring a China venture capital offering to the Altvest stable, maybe take us through a little bit of the thinking, how it's going to work, and what the value proposition is there. Warren, I think you might be muted.
Yes, I was. Some background. I serve as the chair of investment committees for two very large retirement funds in the country. As a consequence of those appointments, and as a current investor in China, I was invited to an investor mission to do a due diligence and manager update on China. It was my first time to the country. My view had been formed by sort of everything you read in The Economist, the FT, New York Times, etc., etc. And what I expected was a country that was under the thumb of the COP, with the dejected people, all in gray overalls, living under communist rule. What I found instead was a vibrant economy, a vibrant people, a friendly people, an enthusiastic people, and most of all, ambition like I've never seen anywhere in the world. We got the opportunity as part of this visit that was hosted by Rescura Invest, who are experts in China, by the way, and have been there in excess of 10 years, investing boots on the ground, offices in Shanghai and Hong Kong. And we got to see things that an ordinary visitor wouldn't. We got an interview with senior management at Tencent. We got a tour of the BYD, is the second biggest EV car manufacturer, second only to Tulsa. We got to see them produce a car from start to finish in 58 seconds. We got to see a cell phone factory that created 10,000 units per hour with a staff complement of 2 people. We got to meet entities that were changing the world as far as medication and vaccines were concerned. We got to see applications, apps that are tested. Their beta testing reaches 10 million up to 100 million people, which is unheard of. Right? And it occurred to me that the smallest investor in any of this, from a South African perspective, were people who invest in 100 million or more. And I thought to myself, what is preventing me, or Tatum, or Mark, or Sipho, or Jan, or anyone from having exposure to this, and why, and why can't we invest in this growth story? We just heard today on the news that China's trade surplus is almost $1 trillion. It's the first in history. It shows you that the world is buying what China is selling, right? And this supports our thesis, and it supports our ethos in that the only reason that South Africans can't participate in this is lack of imagination and lack of will of financial services providers to make it available. And so we decided right then, I think we were having Peking duck and red wine at the time, that we would do it as Altvest. Though I did mention it was my first time to China, and I needed a strategic partner. And right there and right then, we persuaded Rescura Invest, who've been there for the last 10 years and want to be there for the next 100 years, to stand side by side with us in bringing this to the retail market. Now, for those who've heard the name Rescura, they're the biggest asset consulting business in Africa. They service and advise to trillions of assets under management. And we persuaded them, and it wasn't too difficult, because it's also in their ethos to service South Africa, that this is something that South African retail investors might need and might want to grow and diversify their own wealth base. And so we agreed that we would partner with them in making this available to ordinary South Africans, and to South Africans who can't afford to put in 20 to 100 million rands worth of their portfolio into China. We chose Chinese venture capital more specifically because the most interesting opportunities from my perspective, and I think Tatum shares this with me, is available in that sector. This is like being invited to invest in Tencent 25 years ago. This is like being invited to invest in, Shimu or BYD prior to IPO 10 years ago. We want to bring those opportunities to, South Africans who have 100 Rand up to 19.9 million to invest. And that's the market we're looking to serve. Some people might say it goes against the grain of us supporting South African SMEs. I could partially agree, but one of our other objectives is to ensure South Africans have access to opportunities otherwise excluded from their normal opportunity set. And so that's that. It's Altvest using our listed structure to bring a venture capital opportunity to ordinary South Africans.
Have you got a sense of how much you're looking to raise in terms of this D-class share?
I'm hoping for 200 million, but we would have the capacity to go up to 1 billion if the appetite was sufficient. So what we plan on doing is issuing 20 million shares at 10 Rand a share. We are still going through the regulatory rigor of getting the Class D approved with the JSE. So right now, if people are interested, they can sort of put their name on a early access list that's available on our website. And if you do that and indicate how much you'd like to invest, we'd make sure you're in the front of the queue to get some of these shares.
Looking at, it's hard enough investing in Naspers. It's hard enough investing in Tencent. We've just seen the issues around Tencent and the US and military listings and all of those things. You as Altvest in South Africa, somebody says, well, what is your set of expertise that would be able to justify the investment that goes with you into Chinese venture capital?
Right. So, Mark, an important point here is that we invest alongside the investors.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, we make the initial investment, but more specifically, we aren't making an investment recommendation. You could say implicitly we are, because we've chosen that as an investment destination, but we aren't giving financial advice as to whether people should invest in that or not. What we're providing is opening up the avenue to do so if you elect to do so. At all times, it remains your responsibility to check it out. China is not without risk. It's a communist country. It's a sleeping dragon. They are known for things like locking up the CEO of Alibaba for 18 months. That stuff happens. It's real. But they also are an incredible growth story. They also provide exceptional opportunity, exceptional growth, and the exceptional ability to generate wealth. And ours is to make those opportunities available because they weren't previously. Had you woken up, in September last year or January last year and decided, I'd like to invest in Chinese venture capital, it was impossible for you to do so. It remains impossible for you to do so, and anyone else, unless you've got 100 million to spend to do so. And that's not only impossible for South Africans, it's impossible to do that for almost 98% of the world population up until now. So the choice is yours. I've created the pathway if you choose to do so. And that's the Altvest ethos, and that's the Altvest mission. Whether it's a good idea or not, that's for you to decide. For those who don't think it's a good idea, figure out a way to short us. That I'm not going to do. But the mechanisms are there. So yeah, that's it.
I'm cognizant of time, but I mean, maybe to throw a question to you. I mean, people, the discussion has come up, and people have said, are Altvest trying to be all things to all people in terms of their suite of products? You've got everything from a game lodge through to a restaurant, through to SME lending. You've just spoken about the Springboks. I know Bitcoin is on the agenda as well. China venture capital. Is it a case that, are you concerned that you're stretching yourself too thin, or does this have a real strategy behind it that you can articulate in a relatively short space of time?
The strategy is to bring exciting opportunities, right? The prerogative of the Altvest executive is to know when to partner with the correct experts. As far as China is concerned, it's not going to be me driving through mainland China trying to meet asset managers or companies. I've partnered with experts in the industry who have boots on the ground in China, and that's the model. If we bring Bitcoin to the market, which we fully intend doing, not bringing it to the market, you'll see in time. I'm not going to give it away now. But to the extent that there is a specialized asset class, we know enough to know what we know and what we don't. And where we don't know enough, we partner with experts. So we will bring along people who make sure we do the right things and do them in the right way and bring appropriate products to the market. Notwithstanding the fact that we don't give financial advice, we will never, ever bring an inappropriate option to the market. And we will never bring something that has inappropriate risk metrics attached to it to the market. Yes, they may be risky, but it will always be risk as considered within the context of responsible investing. It will never be considered investing. And yes, there may be a diverse range of options, but we can assure you, and it becomes more obvious if you read our documentation, that where required, we partner with topic experts. And we will always do that. We've done so in the past. Certain things you don't need experts. The entrepreneurs who are running those ventures are the experts in those particular. But from Umganu Lodge, we've got expert hotel operators that are running the lodge, Legacy Hotel Group. Bambanani, we've got an expert restaurateur who's been in the business for 30 years running it. ACOF, we've appointed an expert investment committee. On the Altvest Orient Opportunities Fund, we will partner with Rescura Invest. Bitcoin, square brackets, we'll have a crypto expert partner. And with Springboks, we've said it in every single interview, we will partner with the relevant experts on the particular topic. So the smorgasbord is broad, it's very varied, but we know when to partner and how to partner, and that's one of the things I think we're very good at.
Perfect. Tatum, I'm going to give Warren a chance just to catch his breath quickly. Anything else you'd like to add in terms of strategy or some of the learnings that you've had over the last couple of months in terms of the Altvest journey?
Yeah, look, I think the learnings have been quite broad with regards to the reception that we received from the general public. The excitement, Warren is saying that we went from 350 shareholders to 2,500. It's actually 3,500 shareholders that we have. And, we're seeing that people are quite receptive to what we're trying to do. At the core of our ethos is inclusivity, agility, and innovation. So we want to constantly make sure that we are speaking to what the South African investor is hoping to see and what they're hoping to do with their money. It's been fantastic. We're looking forward to 2025. As I said, a broad set of offerings that are going to be coming the South African public's way. And I think it's just the beginning. I think this will actually be a good year of harvesting from all that interest that we generated in 2024.
Excellent. Warren, any closing comments from your side?
From an Altvest perspective, this is the year of execution. This is the year where all our believers will see the strategy executed and properly implemented. I have no more excuses. For me, it's now to deliver, and I fully intend on doing so. And Mark, thank you as always for your interest, your participation, and your participation.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Warren and Tatum, thanks very much for your time, and looking forward to catching up during the year. Hopefully, once your results are out, we can compare some numbers and see where we're at. So appreciate your time and have a good afternoon.
You too.
Thanks, Mark.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.